If you're over 70 and still waking up curious, still reaching out to others, still finding joy in the little things, you are rarer than gold. In a world that too often forgets to celebrate the quiet power of aging well, you are living proof that life's richest treasures aren't found in youth. They're crafted slowly, through resilience, kindness, and the courage to keep showing up. Today, let's honor the quiet, extraordinary ways you, and others like you, are still lighting the way. Have you ever stopped in the middle of something ordinary, making tea, tying your shoes, watering your plants, and suddenly realized just how rare that moment is? Not because of anything grand, but because you're still doing it. Still present. Still engaged. Still curious. You see, the world doesn't always tell older adults this, but if you're over 70 and still doing certain things many have quietly set down, you're not just doing well for your age. You're exceptional. A rare gem. Take, for instance, the simple act of waking up with intent. Not just waking up because the sun has peeked through the blinds or the birds started chirping, but waking with purpose. Maybe you still stretch your arms overhead and tell yourself, today, I'm going to learn something. Or, today, I'll try to make someone smile. If that's you, pause for a moment and recognize how deeply meaningful that is. In a world that often encourages slowing down, it takes quiet bravery to stay curious. To keep exploring. To continue growing, not just older, but deeper. Let me tell you about Ernest. He's 78 now, a retired postal worker who never much liked school growing up. But last year, after his wife passed, he picked up a beginner's guide to world history. Said he wanted to understand the places they never got to visit. Now, each morning, he reads a few pages before breakfast. Sometimes he forgets the dates or mixes up the names. But that's not the point. He's still showing up. Still feeding his mind. Still insisting that life, even now, is full of new things to learn. That kind of mental movement, that refusal to stagnate, is rare. And beautiful. And maybe it's not books for you. Maybe it's the garden. Or keeping a weekly phone call with a grandchild. Maybe you still sing along to the radio in the car. Or you've mastered the art of cooking for one, and make your plate look lovely just because you deserve beauty, even when no one else is watching. You might not even realize how uncommon that is. Many people, understandably, let things go in their 70s. They retreat a little. Life gets heavier. Bodies slow. Motivation dips. And honestly, that's okay. That's natural. But if you're still choosing to participate, with heart, humor, hope, you are doing something remarkable. You're resisting the quiet fade out. And we need to talk about what a gift that is. Let's go back for a second. Do you remember how many people in your younger years assumed that turning 70 or 75 was the end of doing things? Maybe someone once joked that life slows to a shuffle. That you'd be all naps and medication reminders. Well, here you are. Still taking walks. Still fixing that stubborn drawer in the kitchen. Still asking tough questions, and maybe even commenting on a YouTube video here and there. That's not a small thing. Sometimes, these everyday actions, when done consistently, and with care, become quiet declarations of dignity. Of agency. Of saying, I may be older, but I am still here. And it matters more than ever now, because the world moves quickly. Too quickly. We're surrounded by a constant flood of noise, technology updates, fast headlines, images spinning by. It's easy for older voices to get lost in the shuffle. But if you are over 70 and still showing up in your own life, still crafting meaning with each new day, you are actively preserving something precious, not just for yourself, but for everyone who follows after you. You are keeping wisdom alive in motion. You're proving that age does not steal richness, it concentrates it. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time someone looked at you and said, "You inspire me"? Not because of a speech or a grand gesture, but because you kept going. You chose kindness when frustration was easier. You showed up when you didn't have to. You remembered someone's name. You forgave. You let a stranger go first in line. These little things, they accumulate. There's a woman named Alma, 74, who still hosts soup night at her house every other Wednesday. Anyone in the neighborhood can show up. The guests change, sometimes it's old friends, sometimes it's folks just passing through. But the pot is always warm, and the welcome is always real. Alma says it's her way of staying stitched into the fabric of the world. Isn't that a beautiful thought? Now, let's be honest. Staying stitched in isn't easy. Sometimes the threads fray. Friends move away. Family grows busy. The body complains. The stairs feel steeper. The news feels louder. And the silence in the evenings can feel like it echoes deeper than it used to. But still, you do this. You reach. You reflect. You still love. You still try. That is no small thing. That is rare. If any of this is resonating, I'd love it if you shared your thoughts below. Have you noticed how certain things you still do, things that feel normal to you, are now seen as exceptional by others? Let's talk about that. Leave a comment. Share your experience. Because you never know who might need to hear your story right now. We'll continue in a moment with something else truly remarkable you might still be doing, something most people don't realize is becoming rarer with each passing year. But before we go on, just remember, showing up to your own life, especially after 70, is not just brave. It's brilliant. There's something else you may still be doing that few people talk about, but when they see it, they stop. They notice. Sometimes they smile and say nothing. Other times, they're moved without knowing exactly why. It's when you still give. Not just financially, though generosity like that is deeply valuable, but in smaller, quieter ways that most never recognize for what they really are. Like remembering to call someone when you know they're feeling low. Offering your seat even when your knees are aching. Or simply listening, really listening, without rushing in to speak. There's a certain kind of generosity that comes with age, one that isn't about being flashy or loud. It's subtle. Woven into gestures, glances, patience. And if you're still offering that to the world, still choosing to give when life may have taken much, you are among the rarest gems of all. Let me tell you about a man named Leo. He's 81, a former shopkeeper who lives alone now in a quiet neighborhood. Every Friday, without fail, Leo walks, slowly but deliberately, down to the community center and helps set up the chairs for the senior bingo group. He doesn't play. Doesn't stay. Just sets them up. When someone asked him why, he said, "Because when I was in my 50s, there was an old fellow who did it for me. This is my thank you, 30 years late." That kind of memory? That kind of follow-through? That's gold. Many people grow older and feel invisible. And truthfully, society doesn't always help. There's this unfortunate tendency to treat seniors as done giving, as though their usefulness has peaked. But here's the truth most people overlook. If you are still living with intention and generosity, you may be contributing more to the world now than ever before. You're modeling something sacred, how to love without expectation. Because at this stage, most of what you give isn't transactional. You're not looking to climb ladders, win applause, or build resumes. You give because it's who you are. Because it feels right. And that's what makes it so powerful. Maybe it's a grandchild you check in on weekly. Maybe you still volunteer at a food bank or bring soup to the neighbor recovering from surgery. Or maybe you offer something even rarer in today's fast-paced world, your attention. Your calm presence. your stillness. A retired nurse named Evelyn once said, "I don't have the energy to do what I used to, but I still have wisdom. I can sit next to someone in pain without rushing to fix it. I just stay." That, just staying, is a gift that younger generations often forget how to offer. If you're still showing up for others like that, even when it's not convenient, you're shining in a way few people do. And it's not always external. Some of the most profound generosity shows up within. It's in how you still give yourself grace. Forgive your own missteps. Speak to yourself with kindness when you forget a word or misplace your glasses. Because aging doesn't always come with ease. It takes strength to keep meeting each day with patience, especially toward yourself. And if you're still doing that, still meeting your reflection with a nod instead of a frown, that's a quiet revolution. You're resisting a culture that worships youth and dares to say, "This older face? This aging heart? Still worthy. Still good." I know, sometimes it doesn't feel that heroic. Some mornings are slower than others. Some days, it feels like the world forgot you're still here, still thinking, still feeling, still loving deeply. But let me assure you, if you're still practicing care, for yourself or others, you are living proof that age has nothing to do with the expiration of meaning. One of the most beautiful things I've seen recently was a handwritten note shared online. It was from a woman named Jean, who lost her best friend of 60 years. The card said simply, "Thank you for every Wednesday." Turns out, they'd spoken on the phone every Wednesday since 1963. Even when one of them was in the hospital, they found a way. That kind of bond doesn't make headlines. But it's what keeps the world from falling apart. And if you're still keeping those rituals alive, checking in, reaching out, holding space, then you're doing something extraordinary. You know, in a world chasing speed and instant gratification, we've forgotten the power of consistency. Of rhythm. Of quiet loyalty. But you haven't. And that makes you irreplaceable. If you're still with me, I'd love to know, what's something you still do, maybe without even thinking, that others have quietly admired in you? Has someone ever told you, "I hope I'm like you when I'm older"? If they have, I hope you took that to heart. If they haven't, let me say it now. I hope I'm like you. Next, we're going to talk about another rare gift that seniors like you carry, one that the younger generations desperately need but often don't realize until it's too late. It has to do with perspective, and the quiet power of knowing what matters most. But before we shift gears, just breathe this in for a moment. The way you still care, still give, still reach, isn't just admirable. It's legacy work. Let's talk about something that can't be measured with blood tests or balance sheets. Something that doesn't come from textbooks or certifications. Perspective. If you're over 70 and still carry the ability to step back, breathe, and say, "You know what? That's not worth the worry," then you're holding one of the most undervalued powers in today's world. Perspective doesn't always arrive all at once. It trickles in quietly over the years. It's earned, not handed down. And if you've reached this point in life with the ability to see through the noise, to know which problems matter and which will pass, that is a rare and calming gift. Maybe you've learned not to panic when things break. Or when plans shift. Or when someone speaks in frustration. You've likely seen enough to know that most storms pass, and that people, even when they fall short, are usually doing their best. You've had enough years to recognize that life isn't a sprint toward perfection. It's a dance between holding on and letting go. And that wisdom? It isn't loud. It doesn't wave flags. But it shows up in the smallest, most human ways. It's there when you pause before responding in anger. It's there when you smile at the young cashier fumbling through change. It's there when someone younger vents about something you've lived through 3 times over, and instead of correcting them, you simply nod and let them be heard. Perspective isn't about being above others. It's about walking beside them, with fewer illusions, and greater compassion. And if you're still practicing that kind of clarity after 70, still able to say no without guilt and yes without fear, you are walking proof that age doesn't just accumulate years. It distills meaning. A woman named Bernice comes to mind. She's 76 and told me once, when I was younger, I'd lose sleep over things like whether the chicken was overcooked or if the neighbor judged my lawn. These days, if the food is warm and the people are kind, that's enough. That kind of inner shift. That's treasure. Because not everyone makes it there. Some get stuck in regret. Others cling to control. But if you've released some of that, if you've learned to let things be, then you are not only living longer, you're living wiser. You've likely noticed something else too. As the years have passed, your circle may have grown smaller, but tighter. The people who matter now aren't necessarily the loudest or the most visible. They're the ones who show up. Who listen. Who respect your boundaries and love you not for what you do, but for who you are. That awareness alone, of what really matters, is something many people never fully grasp. And if you're someone who now chooses presence over performance, peace over prestige, and truth over convenience, you are ahead of the curve in ways that can't be quantified. Because here's the thing. The world often encourages accumulation, of stuff, of titles, of opinions. But aging invites something braver. Simplicity. Clarity. Peace. If you're still able to find joy in the ordinary, the sound of birdsong, the softness of your favorite sweater, the way sunlight moves across the floor in late afternoon, you are embodying something that no algorithm or app can replicate. You are showing us what it looks like to be fully human. Not chasing. Not proving. Just being. And there's something incredibly soothing about that. Especially for younger folks who are still running full speed toward things they don't even want. You may not realize it, but just by existing as you are, at ease in your own skin, you offer a kind of roadmap. A quiet reminder that the race slows down for a reason, and that there's beauty in stillness. So if you're over 70 and still able to find contentment in the moment, not because it's perfect, but because it's real, you are practicing something sacred. And rare. There's this gentleman I met once, Howard. He was 83 and every morning he'd sit on his porch with a cup of coffee and just watch. Not scroll. Not read. Not multitask. Just watch the trees move. When someone asked him what he was thinking about, he said, "Nothing in particular. I just like the way the wind reminds me I'm still here." Imagine that kind of mindfulness. Imagine choosing to be with a moment instead of always trying to make something of it. If that sounds like you, or even something you're working toward, please know how deeply it matters. In a world that encourages more, faster, louder, you're choosing enough, slower, quieter. And that choice carries ripple effects. Maybe you've taught someone younger that it's okay not to be busy all the time. Or maybe your way of handling hard moments, with grace and humor, has offered comfort to those around you, without you even knowing it. Your presence is your wisdom. And if you still hold the capacity to say, "This is where I am, and it's good," then you are a rare gem indeed. Next, we'll take a look at one final trait that, if you still possess it after 70, places you in a very special category. It's not a skill. It's not something you learn in school. But it might just be the most life-affirming thing of all. And before we move on, if you found any part of this journey so far speaking to your experience, please leave a thought in the comments. It might be just what someone else needed to hear today. You never know whose life your quiet wisdom might be touching. We've talked about presence, about giving, about perspective. But there's one more thing. One trait that, if you've held on to it after 70, especially after everything life has handed you, makes you truly rare. And that's the ability to feel joy. Not the loud, performative kind. Not the kind sold to us in commercials or promised in new gadgets. But the quiet kind. The kind of joy that bubbles up from a moment of connection. From the sound of laughter in the next room. From a freshly folded blanket, or a bird landing on the railing, or the way your favorite song still knows how to find you. If you're over 70 and still open to joy, not guarded against it, not hardened by disappointment, not suspicious of feeling good, then you are doing something remarkable. Because let's be honest. Life after 70 is not always easy. It asks a lot. It may have taken people you loved. It may have asked you to say goodbye to homes, to routines, to roles you held for decades. It may have introduced you to quiet mornings filled with ache, not just in your back or knees, but in your heart. And still, you choose to notice the sun when it's streaming through the curtains. You still let yourself laugh when a grandchild says something delightfully weird. You still hum along with the kettle. That is resilience. Real joy in later life isn't about ignoring the hard things. It's about inviting joy in anyway, because of those hard things. Because you've earned it. Because you know just how precious it is. There's an 80-year-old widower I met once, named Simon. He lost his wife of 52 years and, for a long time, the house was just too quiet. But one day, he found himself chuckling at a squirrel trying to carry a baguette twice its size across his patio. He said, "I hadn't laughed in months. And when I did, I cried too. But that laugh? It brought me back." If you can still laugh, even a little, you're doing something sacred. Something rare. Joy is risky. It requires vulnerability. It means opening your heart again, even though you've known loss. It means being willing to delight in a world that has also disappointed you. And if you're still able to do that, you're not only surviving, you're thriving in a way many don't even recognize. Sometimes it shows up in tiny moments, tasting a perfectly ripe peach. Hearing a favorite old phrase. Running your fingers along a familiar book cover. These aren't just details. They're anchors. They're reminders that life isn't measured only in milestones, but in moments. And if you're still collecting those moments, still giving yourself permission to feel them, you are living in a way that's deeply, profoundly wise. So, take this to heart. If you're over 70 and still able to wake with curiosity, give of yourself, see what really matters, and let yourself be surprised by joy, then you are a rare gem. Not because others aren't capable of it, but because so many simply stop trying. Not out of weakness, but because they've been told, over and over, that their time of relevance has passed. Let this video be a reminder, it hasn't. Not even close. You are still teaching by example. Still leading by presence. Still offering a model for how to age with grace, with courage, with openness. You are not invisible. You are not done. And the way you live, even in the smallest ways, carries a quiet influence that ripples outward into family, into community, into the fabric of what makes this world kinder and wiser. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep showing up. Keep choosing to care. Keep letting light in where you can. And if today brought you a smile, even a small one, I hope you'll pass it on, whether by sharing this video, telling someone you love that you're thinking of them, or simply savoring your next cup of tea with just a little more awareness. You're still here. You're still capable of wonder. And you're still, undeniably, a rare gem. I try to make every video clear and helpful, but I know technology isn't perfect. If you spot a mistake or something felt off, please comment. Your feedback truly helps.